Tony, I just realized you're sitting in between three lawyers.
Well, you should feel safe, right?
Well defended.
Will you stand with me for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance? You'll join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to join together here tonight. Father, we pray that you would give us wisdom, you would give us the direction, and you would give us make the decisions that would be at your will. Father, we pray all these things in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Brother Smith.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council. Let the record reflect that I have taken roll and all members are present. Having quorum, we will proceed with our agenda. The first item on our agenda is the public forum. We have one individual signed up to speak, and that is Mr. Henry Sasson.
Okay, it's on. Henry Sasson, 1307 Greenmont Hills Drive in Vienna. I figured I'd do this at the front end instead of the back end during council comments because this pertains more to the front end. So the first item on my topic of discussion is PHS Swim Meet is this Saturday at the YMCA. It's their Penguin Invitational. There should be anywhere from 14 to 18 schools. Hopefully the weather holds off and people are here. Last week we had a good showing at the Boys and Girls Club with the Patriot Invitational. Item number 2 is recycle bins. Nobody came around picking them up this week. Is there a delay? There was no communication or anything on that, so I figured I'd ask about that one. Item number 3 is anybody who was driving on Grand Central anywhere, you would see that there were people standing on Grand Central trying to catch a bus. The bus stops were buried in with snow. Whose responsibility is it? I know it's a state road, so I'm assuming the state, but then the bus stop's the bus stop. If somebody gets hit or injured, who's liable? Is it the state, the city, or the person that gets hit, the person that's out there? So that's something that I just wanted to bring up to everyone's attention. And then the last item that I had is everybody's well aware of the wildfires going on in California. I don't know if it was a wildfire that started it, but LA's decimated. It's real important for fire prevention and mitigation. So I mean, the work that the city's done over the last couple of years to extend the line, to have the whole loop, you can shut a section down, still have fire water is important, as well as our city actually does test fire hydrants, and so does Parkersburg, which is a nice thing because apparently they didn't do that out in LA because they got a bunch of dry hydrants. So that's all I had. Thanks.
The first item on our agenda tonight is a discussion with Ms. Lauren Childress, the Global Talent Manager.
Waiting to record the minutes.
Oh, you were absolutely correct. I got ahead of myself. Who would have guessed? It's my first time. Report of the minutes. Rob, is that you?
I can.
Yes.
The minutes were posted and sent to all the council members of the minutes that was on the 12/14/24 council meeting, and they've been printed, posted, and circulated. Any questions, thoughts, comments? Objections?
I don't hear any objections. So does the minutes The minutes are adopted as posted and circulated and made part of the record. And then we can move on to the report of the treasurer.
Does that take a motion or a second?
Doesn't take, no, unless you're gonna amend it, we don't know what it is.
Very good. Report of the treasurer. At this point, Councilman Leach came off of the finance committee, but you would have the one from the previous month and council meeting.
So reconciliation funds for City of Vienna dated January 3rd, 2025 have been reported that I've reviewed the accounts, they appear in order and the city is financially sound. And from here on out, hand it off to Mr. Sassy. So one thing I would say with respect to this, the short form budget report, I would like to see amended and posted as an attachment that you can open so that you don't have to scroll through like 25 pages. So if we could have that in the future, I mean, I think it's helpful to have it on the agenda.
Correct.
But just as a link instead of the full 25 pages, because then you got to fight through that to get to the remaining agenda items. So I would make that suggestion, whoever, to attach that as a link you can open and close as you desire.
Do you have the availability to do that on the website?
I'll have to find out, I would imagine. May have to get Melissa.
I'm not used to it being on my lap.
Right, Melissa?
I got you.
Thank you.
The report of the treasurer is accepted and added to the minutes. We have no unfinished business to deal with at this time, so moving on to new business, which I was so very excited to get to earlier before, right? So under new business, our first item is a discussion with Ms. Lauren Childress from the Global Talent Manager. She's going to come and speak to us a little bit about what she does, what she has observed in our area, and what we may want to consider in future decision making. I'll invite you to the podium.
I'd like to thank Lauren for coming, and the reason I asked her to come and present to council is we've been talking about economic development, what can we do to help grow the area, and what better way to start going through it but to have some of the larger companies in the area report out as to what they are looking at or facing from when they're recruiting talent, whether to relocate or kids out of college. So this was the first attempt to do this. I reached out to Lauren, she graciously accepted. I'd like to also reach out to, the Craytons, the DuPonts, the Kenmores, and do the same. So that way the city of Vienna has a view of what's happening out there for the large companies that are looking to hire. That'll also include the hospitals. So this is first phase. So Lauren, take it away.
Thanks, Henry, and thank you for making time for me today. So I'll just start off by sharing a little bit about myself and then a little bit about some of what I've experienced and what I've seen in my career working with Momentive. So I am a Vienna resident. I have lived here for 14 years. I moved here in 2010 with my husband and we built our family here. We have 3 boys in school at Greenmont and at Jackson. So I have a little bit of experience both as a younger professional coming to the area without any family or ties, and then also as growing family, trying to live in the area as well. I have been with Momentive for 14 years, so I've worked in several roles during that time in an HR capacity, human resources capacity, but 10 of those years have been really focused on recruitment and talent acquisition. So my experience there has been both hiring locally at the plant, which is north of St. Mary's on Route 2, as well as regionally and globally. So I've had a variety of different experiences there. I will say no matter where we're talking about around the world, when we're talking about more rural communities such as ours, it's always challenging to get individuals to relocate to those areas from wherever they are currently. And some of that depends on each of their personal situations and experiences. Everyone is unique. So whether it's a recent college graduate or a single individual or someone with a young family or someone that's getting closer to retirement with 10 or less years to work, what drives them and what really attracts them to the area can vary. So when Henry asked me to come speak and start, try to highlight some of those things, I was really trying to find what are the key themes and what are things that we could really focus on, where we might be able to partner or get more attention on from a community perspective. And I think probably the common theme, something that we could easily look at addressing and really trying to partner on going forward, is really communication. Again, because every person and every situation is unique, it's different what drives them and what's interesting from a candidate perspective. So if you're a recruiter and you're trying to get someone to relocate to an area, you're trying to find what are those personal things that drive them and attract them to it. And knowing what's happening in the local communities, what types of events or activities or organizations are out there that you can drive this candidate toward and highlight and show them how they might fit into the community, is really where you can make a difference and really try to get them interested in that relocation. So I could think of specific examples if we're talking about younger professionals coming out of college, single professionals who are coming to the area. They may not have any family or friends in the area, so how can we get them involved and engaged in the community versus someone with a young family or even a family with older children? How do you get them engaged in the community? They're likely going for sporting activities and school activities, so where might we be able to engage with them more? So what I would really encourage or try to advocate for from a community perspective is to have the council reach out. I mean, I myself have ties to the Momentive site, but as Henry mentioned, he's looking at trying to bring in other local representatives from larger corporations as well. Having that communication with them, letting them know what's going on, and trying to leverage them to help with promoting or advertising for things that are going on in the community can actually help as well. And I'm here speaking from a recruitment perspective, but it's also from a current employee perspective, because we don't want our employees to leave and relocate either. So even if you're talking about the local HR professionals at different sites, they can also help with making sure that employees at those locations are engaged as well. I think that was all that I had. Henry, anything you want to add to it?
No, well, there is, you and I spoke about the communication part and about what we as a city could offer to Momentive. And there's a lot of employees that live south of the plant, whether it's, in Parkersburg, Vienna, or Marietta. And Lauren, made a comment about the newsletter. We have packets that we give to new hires or potential candidates. If we can always send, every quarter when a newsletter goes out, send a pen or whatever to Momentive for her attention, so that way she can include it in a packet. That way, all the potential candidates know, hey, here's the activities for the quarter that are coming up. I mean, that's one way she thought maybe.
That was one example. That the quarterly newsletter, that, I mean, whenever I get that, I go through it and put all the events in my phone that I think might be interesting or things that I can do with the kids on the weekend. So again, that's something that we could leverage with candidates when they're looking at relocating. For us with Momentive, they might be looking at relocating north of the plant, up in New Martinsville. They might be looking in the Parkersburg, Vienna area, or even the Marietta area. So once we know where someone's going to be relocating, we really try to get them connected into that local community. And so those are things that we could do. But again, those are things that could also be shared with new hires that have come in and maybe haven't been settled yet. I mean, it doesn't have to be just people we're trying to attract. It's also about keeping the employees that we have here. So if there's any other, I know the quarterly newsletter was one thing that I was aware of. So if there are any other types of communications or things like that we could tap into, we would be more than happy to leverage that.
So one of the discussion points that I had with an individual a couple of days ago was that when they look at moving into an area, they find them in a social media realm.
Mm-hmm.
They look at them on the web, they look at them through social media, they look at them through these different aspects. And the discussion point there was that if they couldn't be found via social media and via the web, that probably wasn't an area in which that they wanted to be engaged in or be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see the use of social media and outreach in that fashion? How is it connected to recruitment?
Anytime we're talking with the candidate about considering a move, those are the things they're going to look at. They're going to Google, they're going to go online, they're going to go on Facebook and look at what groups are out there. And so those things are important for sure. From a local standpoint, if we know there are other resources or other avenues that we can channel people to, we would certainly highlight those and bring that to their attention. But if you leave them to their own devices, they're definitely going to go there first. So putting a focus there and an effort into making sure you maintain those pages and keep things that you want to be putting out to the community in that platform is also really relevant. I do think we can redirect them to the right places if there are other websites or things we want to send them to, but if they're left to their own devices, they're definitely going to start there.
That's all I had. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I appreciate what you're explaining, and we have dropped the ball in Wood County on this totally. I served on the Charleston City Council beginning in 2004 or something like that. I was on that for 8 years, and the first thing that I did was, through the Ditzler Foundation, we paid for a student to work the whole summer to put everything in the Charleston area on the Charleston website, so that when somebody would look at Charleston, they would see the soccer teams, the baseball teams, the dance, every opportunity. And the young man that was doing that summer, he said, well, does it have to be in the city limits? I said, no, if it's within 100 miles, we put it here. Because when somebody's looking at the area and they want to see what there is for themselves or their kids or whatever. And I would volunteer if we need to, if we can't do it with the city resources, I can pay a student for the summer sometime to do that, because we simply don't have it on our website. And it should be, as soon as you go to Vienna website, there should be something for activities and everything. And I mean, the Discoveries Center, I mean, all of that should be on Vienna website, the Parkersburg website, and the Wood County website if we want to get people here. Would that make your job a little easier?
It would, to have one centralized place where you could point someone to look, because again, if you're trying to get someone to relocate here, they're not going to look in just Vienna. They're going to look in Vienna, Parkersburg, Mineral Wells, Marietta. They're going to look all over. And then even beyond that, once they do relocate here, even if they don't come to live in Vienna, they might have kids enrolled in Vienna Rec. They might have kids enrolled in other activities here locally. And those are things we want to bring awareness to, because again, we want to keep the employees we have here as well. So it's not just about the new faces coming in, although that's critical, but also keeping what we have.
And I'll say, don't look at the Charleston website now, because they got lazy and let that all go by the wayside.
And that is the next step, right? Is making sure to keep it evergreen. That's the challenging part, because once you get it out there and people rely on it, you don't want to let it fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, we had where you even the coaches' names and everything, so that when somebody wanted to get involved, they could find the event, the activity, whatever, and know who to contact and how to become involved in it. So thank you for sharing your insight on this.
Of course, thank you. Any other questions?
From the standpoint, I'll call it of scorekeeping. So when you have potential recruits coming into the area, we've always touted Vienna as being pretty popular place for people raise families. You're raising your family. Marietta, I think, has got some really nice attributes. What do you see in terms of the interest levels in the areas of our community, and it's called the Mid-Ohio Valley, and what would you attribute that interest to, if you have a sense of that? I don't know that you do.
Do you mean interest in terms of people?
Yeah, I want to go to Vienna. I want to go to Parkersburg. I want,
why would someone choose here versus one of those others?
Relocate to. Just kind of see how we're doing. We always want to understand that there's, hey, I kind of like Vienna, but there's this problem, or anything that you would recommend to us that would say, hey, here's something that is good for you guys, but maybe, and like I said, it may not be something that just even comes up, but it just occurred to me.
Usually it's personal preference. So if it's a single individual, oftentimes they might lean toward Marietta because, you've got the college there. It's got more of that younger professional vibe. If it's a individual with young children or considering having young children, we might be more likely to get them into Vienna because they're attracted to the school district and they're attracted to, putting their kids in schools that are highly ranked. So It really depends on, again, it goes to that individual story that that person has. I've not seen anything that really deters people from Vienna versus other areas, though. I don't think there's any one particular issue that we would need to focus on in terms of that.
I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad to hear what you're saying. And a couple years ago in a public forum, I talked about when I was looking for trails to walk on in the city, there was nothing. And there still isn't anything on the city's website. And so when you look at the parks, where the basketball courts are, where the dog parks are, walking trails, just golf, all these different activities, when you go to the city's website for Vienna, there is nothing. There's nothing. And I think that makes a big difference if someone's coming in to look at an area. They want to see that information, they want to see it now. They don't want to have to search for it. They don't want to have to go ask people about it. So I think this is really good, and I hope that we do that.
Yeah, it all ties in. All of those things are, again, it's a personal situation for every person making that decision, but those things are things that can help convince someone whether this is the right place for them or not.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the presentation. Having been a person that's traveled and both single and with a family, I know as I was traveling, the places where I was working typically wasn't anywhere close to a city. So I was always having to pick the closest dot on the map. And as I was researching that city, I was looking at pictures of the parks that they had. I was looking at the restaurants that they had to offer, the different amenities. And I also realized that, you know, as a single adult, my choices changed, you know, like what you were talking about, you know, versus whenever I became a family man. Now I'm looking for more parks and stuff. I think personally, if whenever I was seeing the parks, like having that visual, being able to see pictures of the parks, being able to see pictures of the city. Sometimes, you know, whenever you Google stuff and you just see like somebody's, you know, taking a picture with their iPhone of the menu of the restaurant. But if maybe if somebody were to take the opportunity to get pictures of the actual, you know, park, like good solid pictures, have something that people can look at and kind of have a better perspective of what it is that they're possibly moving into. I think that would, I mean, again, from my personal experience, that always helped me in my decision-making process of where I was going to live. So again, I appreciate the presentation.
Absolutely.
Chad, Melissa's still here, so she can answer this. For Vienna Rec, because I haven't looked at it.
Where's she at? Oh,
She's in the back row. We had a meeting here in December about Vienna Rec, and several of us were there. It was like 2,300 kids signed up for a slew of activities. Is all that stuff on the website now?
On the Vienna Rec website? I believe most of it is. I'm not sure. They have, I can't say for certain, but that's, mostly they use it to channel people there for signups. It gives them some basic information, but that'd be worth to loop them into that conversation.
Yeah, because
to make sure that whatever they've got on theirs is consistent with whatever the city has on theirs.
Yeah, because from a park standpoint with Tony, this is something that we got to make sure we can get on there, because if you get that and then you're promoting all these activities, especially with families and that have little kids. I was surprised with some of the events that we had offered over there, and 2,300 plus kids. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, there is a lot. It's just figuring out how to track it all down and make sure the people that want to know that information have it.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you. You can go pick up your kids.
Yes, I have to go do the mom stuff now. Thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
They get over.
The next item on our agenda is a resolution accepting the bequeathment of $112,054.93 from the estate of Chief James G. Midkiff. You want to read that?
If you want to, okay.
You got it there? Go ahead.
This is a resolution accepting bequeathment of $112,054.93 from the estate of Chief James G. Midkiff Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna, the City of Vienna accepts the generous donation of $112,054.93 from the estate of James Benke, former Chief of Parks Worth Police Department. This bequest is intended for the benefit of the citizens of the City of Vienna, specifically for improvements to the Vienna City Park system. Council directs that this gift be assigned to the city's general fund.
So having heard the resolution, is there a motion to accept the bequeathment?
So moved.
And I would second it. I personally knew Jim Midkiff. He was a detective in the Parksville Police Department when I was a prosecutor. He was a chief of police. And he didn't make a bunch of money, and for him to share this with the city of Vienna so unselfishly is just amazing. I second the motion.
So at this time, we open it up for discussion?
Yeah. The motion having been moved and seconded, is there a discussion?
Any discussion?
No discussion?
Being no discussion, we will vote. Reporter Smith, will you poll the council?
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Or is it just a single?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. The motion carries unanimously. We are going to pass over item number 3, and Mr. Skogstad, do you want to address that?
Yeah, there's an issue with the resolution. There was a miscommunication. My recommendation is that we pull number 3, and then correct the issue and bring it to council for its consideration at the next council meeting.
Does that take any action on our part?
Well, we're not tabling it, so I think you can just bypass it. You can pass it as fine.
Can I ask what the issue is?
Now, to be blunt, there was a communication issue. There was a list of individuals that were set as the utility board, or to be there are 5 individuals that are nominated as liaisons. The 5th is appointing Jim Leach to the utility board. We based that on a list that we had that was incorrect. The intent was, as is going to be addressed later, is that Mr. Leach be appointed as the council liaison. Council representative to the utility board, and not as the liaison to the Public Works Department, because the liaison to the Public Works Department is the chairman of the utility board.
So why is that not okay?
Why is that not okay? I think somebody else wants to have their name considered as chair of the utility board.
So that someone from council.
Yes. Yeah. Here's where we're at, just to be blunt. When the list was generated, this was prior to our ordinance that established that liaisons had to be passed through council, at least that's my understanding. And because the list was generated prior to that, it incorrectly listed one of the utility board members as both a liaison to the utility board, and it wasn't clear that they were the public service, the public works liaison. Traditionally, what has happened in Vienna is the mayor has kept the position of public service, public works liaison, and also as the chair of the utility board. And so that's what we're dealing with here. I think the intent is that Mr. Leach serve on the utility board, which would come up for consideration later, but that he not serve as the chair of the utility board, and that would be reserved to the liaison of the Public Works Department. And the Public Works Department, I expect, you'll get a resolution with the mayor's name on it, as opposed to Mr. Leach in both spots, which he also could not do.
Could I discuss this a little bit? Or can we-
Well,
Because what I would like to say, just let me say what I want to say.
I'm not charging.
So there's not a motion, there's
I know,
nothing
it's
for a discussion point at this.
Well, I could make a comment. Can I make a comment?
I don't believe there can be discussion.
Well, there's not discussion. You'd have to say your comments for council
The
comment
council
portion.
comments.
Unless we don't,
We can't hear you guys, use your microphones, everybody.
unless we
If
want
Pete
to
just-
amend. Unless we want to proceed, with it is and make a motion to amend it. I mean, I'm just telling you, my advice is to just, pull it, correct it, and resubmit it in total. But- Thank you, Ms. Williams. However, if council wants to amend it, I think they could amend it to strike it, to strike the name and just consider the 4 names, 1 through 4, and then submit, an agenda, or submit a resolution naming the liaison to the Public Works Department.
So do we have to vote on pulling this?
I don't think so, because you don't have, if we had Robert's Rules of Orders that were strictly adhered to, then we would have a different procedure, but because we don't, and we have in the past pulled, resolutions, that needed corrected or for whatever reason, then I think we're perfectly fine in doing that without having a vote.
So is there a reason, I'm not clear, I'm not trying to be argumentative,
No, I
I'm not
understand.
clear on why there can't be some discussion, we're on
Well, if you're going
agenda
to,
item number 3.
if you're going to discuss it, then it needs to be moved and seconded to be discussed, and then it can't be pulled and corrected, you would have to amend it.
I'm not sure I agree with that, but, if it needs to be, if Tammy wants to say something and it needs a motion, then I'd present the motion, and if we can get a second, I think she deserves it. She's on council, if she wants to ask a question, she should be able to do that.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. So what's your discussion point?
Well, it really,
Tammy, would you use your microphone too?
You gotta pull it towards you.
like this.
I know it's a learning experience for
And
everybody.
as a learning curve, I never did get it right up there either.
Excuse me before you speak, just point of clarification, we'll have to move and second it first before she speaks.
That would be the procedure.
Okay. Right.
Well,
Do I have a motion on the floor, or a motion on the floor to open this for discussion?
To
so
adopt,
moved.
To adopt it and,
to adopt the resolution as it's drafted, so that if it's seconded, it can be discussed.
so do I have a motion on the floor to accept as it is drafted in order to open it for discussion?
If, if that's the only way the entire council thinks it has to be, then I can do that. I disagree, it has to be that way. I think we should allow her to discuss, but whatever, if we need a motion, I'll make
So
So
a
you
motion.
made a motion, you made a second, open for discussion.
The utility board is getting ready to do more than it's ever done in decades, and more than it's going to do in decades to come. We have WVUP, we have the new school, we have the residences in the building down where OVU, the old campus of OVU, and coming down that hill. We've got the road construction, we've got bridges. And to me, I think the most important thing in deciding who will be I'm gonna try to get this right, the council or the liaison to public works, and therefore the chairman of the utility board is the experience. And no offense to you, it has nothing to do with that, but I just don't see someone that has never dealt with any of this being the chairman of the utility board. And it doesn't have to be the mayor. There's nothing in the ordinances, is there, the way you're talking?
That's correct. There's nothing in the ordinance that says it has to be the mayor. It says it's the liaison to the public service.
And again, it's
Department of Public
not
Works.
personal, but I just really think this is too big of a time coming in, and Mr. Leach has knowledge about this. He knows, he's worked in construction, he knows Craig, he's worked with Craig, and I just don't see why it can't be done as is, if that's the issue.
So I think the issue is that one person can't fill both positions.
They have to.
No,
Now, there are two representatives to council to the utility board. The first is the liaison to the Department of Public Works, which is a position that's traditionally been held since the utility board's been opened by the mayor. Second is a council representative. And then there are 3 other individuals that come from the public at large. And they serve also as directors with the approval of council of the utility board. So if Mr. Leach is appointed as council's liaison to the Department of Public Works, then he would serve in that capacity, and another individual would have to be named from council to serve as the council representative to the utility board.
So why can't, I'm just looking at the experience and in the chairman's position, with the amount of work that's going on, working with Craig, working with everyone, and I really do believe it's too important of an issue at this time. And the utility board is a steep learning curve. I mean, you know, I've been going to meetings and I'm still just scratching the surface. I mean, it takes time. So why couldn't Mr. Leach be the council liaison to Public Works and then serve as chairman?
Of the public,
Of the utility
of the
board.
utility board?
Well, there's nothing that says that he can't.
No.
Like I said, the resolution that you have.
Change it without any discussion.
I'm trying to change it without any discussion. What I'm trying to do is just reflect what I've seen as far as the agenda is, because Mr. Leach is on the agenda twice. He's on the agenda first as liaison to the Department of Public Works, and then he's on the agenda as the council representative. If he's the liaison to the Department of Public Works, which is part of this ordinance under number 3, which also names Mr. Dietler to the Volunteer Fire Department, Mr. Smith liaison to the Police Department, Ms. Roach as a liaison to the Senior Center, Mr. Sasson as the liaison to Finance and council representative of Budget and Finance. Then Mr. Leach can serve also as the other position as council representative. So if you choose to go through with the resolution as it's amended, then obviously Mr. Leach can't be considered as the council representative on number 9.
So let me ask this question, Mr. Leach, Councilman Leach, do you want to serve in, and I'm gonna say this with all honesty, would you like to serve as the chairman of the utility board?
So the liaison position, I'm willing to do that, if council wants to appoint me in that role. I think if that were the case, then you would be would amend to move you to the appointment, correct?
Well,
Of the council position?
hold on.
Sure.
Just so I'm clear. So he's asked you if you want to serve as the Department of Public Works Director, which is the liaison, which means that you would be the chair of the utility board, which is, all that's going to require is council to approve, yes or no. And then we'll submit a second resolution to name the mayor as the liaison to the utility board.
Not the liaison.
No, it would be council representative to the utility board.
I'm fine.
So you would, okay.
I would serve.
Well, absent a motion amending the resolution as it's drafted now, this is where you're at.
And I am absolutely okay with that. I have no issues with that whatever. I do not believe that I have to serve as the chairman of that board. I'm okay with that. And I would then move to be the council representative that was on that board and serve along with.
All right, well, we can't do that right
Right.
now. Right now, we have a resolution on the table to adopt the 5 members as the liaisons to the boards that I've already set out. Unless there's an amendment, then, and further discussion, unless there's an amendment or there's further discussion, you guys can move ahead and vote on the resolution as it's drafted, as has been presented to council.
So if we accept this as is, Councilman Leach will become the council liaison and will serve as the chairman of the Vienna Utility Board. Everyone understands that? There's no other discussion.
Call the question.
All right. All those in favor of accepting the resolution as is, signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous.
Okay.
See, that was as clear as mud, and we got right through it, didn't we?
Before we move on to something else, I'd like to bring something else up though. In overlooking the ordinances, there is nothing in our ordinances for the Budget and Finance Committee.
That's correct. Budget and Finance Committee does, there is not an ordinance that created it. That is one of the boards that, it exists at this point simply because it's always existed. It's been the mayor, the recorder, and whoever the liaison is to the finance department.
But they have open meetings and they make recommendations to council.
That's correct.
So shouldn't we have an ordinance?
Well, you certainly can, but as of now, there is not. You certainly can have an ordinance. Budget and finance really serves, I love to hear myself talk. Budget and finance really serves as the, I don't want to say a gatekeeper, but it's like, it's a stop before you get to council to make sure that all of the issues with bids or contracts or whatever have been worked out before they come to council. It only has a recommendation role. It really doesn't do anything other than just to make sure that, you know, the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed before council gets any kind of contract. Council enters into anything basically that involves the expenditure of funds from the city. There's no need to have budget and finance beyond that position. In the past, I think it served a different role, but I think as long as you have these members that are meeting, it has to be noticed, it has to be open, the public has to be able to participate. So that's I mean, to answer your question, there is not an ordinance. That's a body that has existed because it's always existed, and this is how it's existed. And if you want to change it, you can pass an ordinance, I could draft an ordinance to change it however council wants me to direct. And that's up to you all, but as of now, we're just going off of what we've done in the past.
I think because we have an ordinance that states that there will be a council liaison to Budget and Finance, that we need to have a formal legal Budget and Finance Committee. I mean, that's my opinion. You know, I mean, I don't know how we can have an ordinance that says we're going to appoint something to a committee that doesn't exist in our ordinances. Is that legal?
Yes, it's legal to, yes, it is legal. It certainly would be clearer, or could be made clearer if there were legislation that, well, if there were legislation that was adopted by council that spelled out specifically what its duties and obligations are. But as it is now, it's essentially operating off of tradition, which is not in itself illegal. And I think as long as you continue to operate the way that it has been operated, it's not illegal. But certainly you make a good point. Why do you have a resolution to appoint somebody to a board where there's no statutory authority or, you know, information? You know?
We actually had that conversation last night.
Yeah.
So my recommendation would be that we work on, and you can head that up and find an individual to, you know, sponsor that.
Henry's going to be liaison.
But I shouldn't be the one writing this.
But you shouldn't be the, yeah. So,
You gotta have it in someone's.
yeah, hey, Tammy, you brought it up. I'm sorry, no first names, right?
I don't care.
Because I brought that up last night during a discussion, because we were trying to figure that out as well previously. So at this point tonight, there's nothing we can do about that. But we can draft and bring forward a resolution that would be adopted, or an ordinance that would be adopted by the council, and that would set us straight in the future. So I believe that's a great recommendation, and would support that when the time comes.
I'd like to go ahead and proceed with it, I mean, whenever we can.
Yeah. We just can't do it tonight. All right, moving on to item number 4. This is a resolution appointing Tony Morrison as a council representative to the Vienna Board of Parks and Recreation. Mr. Skogstad, will you read the resolution?
Let me just scroll past it. This is a resolution appointing Tony Morrison as council representative to the Vienna Board of Parks and Recreation. Be resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that as per Vienna Municipal Code 137.0384, Tony Morrison, a duly elected member of Vienna City Council, is hereby appointed as the council representative to the Vienna Board of Parks and Recreation for a full three-year term. See Vienna Municipal Code 13704A.
Do I have a motion to accept the appointment of Tony Morrison as the council representative?
Second.
Then we have discussion.
After your motion.
After the motion.
Okay.
So I had a first and a second. We will now open it up for discussions. You were just very excited this evening, weren't you?
You know, I don't know. You guys probably get tired of hearing it.
All right, so we will open it up for discussion.
So the ordinance, for the, the Board of Parks and Recreations is a 3-year term. That in every other council appointment, there are 4-year terms that run concurrent with the term of office. And I would like to see, I'm all in favor of voting for this tonight, and I think you're wonderful, and I think you'll do a great job. But I do want to see the ordinance amended to reflect a 4-year term, so that it's not a 3-year term that we're voting on, and then in 3 years, then someone has to vote for another year. And it's always been done that way. I mean, it's always, you know, the rep for that has always done a 4-year term. But I think it would just be easier and more clear, and then in the future, you know, after this council, then it's correct. So I think it would be good, and I know we can't do that tonight either.
No.
But that's just my comment, is that I think that the ordinance needs to reflect that the council term for the representative is concurrent with what the ordinance says.
Was there any reason why it was written in that fashion? Or just it was written in that fashion?
It was passed that way in 1999. I don't know what the reason was for it. It just is, that predates me by about 7 or 8 years. So I don't know the answer to that.
So that's an ordinance that we can address and update and correct. Then at that time, Mr. Skogstad, if we address that update in the ordinance and change it to a 4-year, at that time, can we make Mr. Morrison's appointment 4-year rather than 3? Or do we have to go back and readdress that?
No, I think you're gonna have to address that later. He's already been appointed under the statute to a 3-year term, or under the ordinance to a 3-year term. I think
You can write the ordinance so that it says that. You can write the ordinance so that the first, that future terms will be 4 years.
Correct.
And you count this 1 year as part of the whatever. I mean, you can, Tammy, when you draft that ordinance, which you submit for us, just be sure all that's in there.
If I keep me quiet, just give me an ordinance to do every time.
You've got 2 so far.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Is there any other discussion? And great point, in doing that, yes, we need to address it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Just a quick comment with Tony's appointment on this, or proposed appointment. You know, you saw his 4 young boys were here earlier. He grew up in the Vienna Parks and Rec program. Really excited to see what he's gonna bring to the table in this role. That's, you know.
If there's no other discussion, we will proceed with our vote. All those in favor accepting Tony Morrison as the council representative to Vienna Board of Parks and Recreation. And it's unanimous. Oh, you voted for yourself?
Might as well,
Oh, great.
without compensation.
Without compensation. Without compensation. Oh, he's gonna give his time. Item number 5 is a resolution appointing Ms. Tammy Rhodes as the council representative to the Vienna Planning Commission.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have discussion? Tammy, do you have anything to say about it?
I do.
Ms. Rhodes, I'm sorry. Nothing? Oh, all right, with no further discussion, we will take a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. I know that's something you were very excited about. So I want to address items number 7 and number 8. They were supposed to be here this evening in discussion. They are not here for discussion or Did I skip 6?
Item 6.
Oh, it was all the way down at Bill. I'm sorry. Let's move on to item number 6, then my apologies. Appointing Rodney Smith to the City of Vienna Tree and Beautification Commission.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Do I dare?
I thought you were cleaning house today. You must have been reading ordinances.
I was
Were you?
too. Well, not all day, not all day. Okay, so in this ordinance, at 97.04, it says that this representative to the Tree and Beautification Commission is appointed and approved by the mayor. And all of our other council representative appointments are approved and or verified, whatever you want to call it, by council. And it doesn't say anything like that in the appointment for Rodney to the Tree and Beautification. And I just really think they ought to all be the same. You know, I don't know why that was left out of those.
Well, it's because it reflects what the ordinance says. The ordinance says there's hereby created, to get to the relevant part, all members except as set out below shall be appointed and approved by the mayor, which shall consist of not more than 11 members. And that's why.
Yeah, I know that's in there, but I'm asking why it's not approved by council like all the other ones are.
Because the council that adopted the ordinance in 2013 didn't feel like it needed to have appointments to tree beautification to be approved by council. I mean, that's the only explanation that I have.
Should it be the same as the others?
That's up to council.
I'll offer this. Because of the way that ordinances are drafted and passed in different city attorneys, different councils, if you went through and you're trying to establish all this consistency in the language of these ordinances, we could spend the rest of our term doing that. I think Mr. Skogstad would agree that just in the drafting, as long as the intent of the ordinance is expressed, and for example, I agree with your point that this needs to be from a 3 to 4 year term. That makes sense to that effort. In terms of if you feel strongly about the budget and finance, because in my view on budget and finance, Russ explained it exactly, that it is a vetting procedure, so by the time, and it'll be similar with your experience on the planning commission, that by the time it gets to council, it will have been reviewed, there's not a variance in the bid spec that's not complied with, different things, because a lot of times by the time it comes to council, we've got a deadline to put that funding in place. And if budget and finance didn't make sure it was straight and ready, then we could get set back and miss a deadline. So that's the purpose there. So that internal consistency is going to be hard just on the way, it's like sausage and oil, right? You don't want to be watching it made. So if there's a reason substantively, I agree we should pursue it. If it's simply that it's just not quite consistent with other language, but it serves the intent still of what we're trying to do, I say we leave it. That would be my opinion.
Whatever you guys want me to do, I'll draft. One of the other things with tree beautification is at various times over the course of that committee's existing, you'll have people that are really interested, and other times you won't have people that are interested. And I think part of the process was let's find the people that are really interested and get them on the board and get the projects moving. Anyway.
Any other discussion?
Yes, just to let you know, I'll abstain from the vote.
You don't have to, it's a non-compensated one, but if you want to, you can.
Jack told me I get paid.
You aren't getting paid.
You get a jar of
That's
honey
fine.
every quarter.
I understand, I was teasing. Okay, I won't then.
Buffalo nickels is what you'll be paid. Any other discussion? We'll proceed with our vote. All those in favor of accepting the resolution as is, raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. That was all the way down at the bottom of the page, that's why I overlooked it. So what I was getting ready to say in items number 7 and 8, they were the two individuals that were being recommended to serve on the utility board were supposed to be here this evening to be able to answer any questions in the way of qualifications and availability to serve and fulfill their roles within that. They are not here this evening. It is my
and it's just my personal opinion, that it would be best for them to be here for council to be able to ask those questions, and to be able to bring into consideration, their qualifications. That is just my personal opinion. I don't know how to proceed with that to make that work, but I think that would be in the best interest. As Ms. Rhodes did state, the utility board is getting ready to get into a load of work. I just want to ensure that when we put these names forward, that council is able to ask the questions, they are able to call into question experience or their availability to fulfill, and would just rather have them here for this rather than not.
Table it until next meeting.
You did a motion to table.
A motion to table.
So I have to bring them forward first, don't I?
Well, I mean, we can read them, however you want to do it there. If you don't, if it's not clear enough, then go ahead and go.
So does everybody understand what I'm asking? We're going to table these two items until the candidates can be here to represent and to answer questions.
So there's been a motion to table a resolution appointing Steve Middleton to the Vienna Utility Board to fill the unexpired term of John Barr, and then, and to extend, and upon the expiration of the unexpired term to a full regular term. And there's the same motion to table the resolution approving the appointment of Michael Simmons to the Vienna Utility Board to a full regular term. So that's been moved. Has it been seconded?
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Is there any other discussion? Again, I just feel that it's important that they have the availability, whether we vote in favor for or against, that they have the opportunity to address any concerns that council members would have.
So I have a question for
Okay.
while we're in discussion. Let's say that we want to consider more than just these two. Okay? I have some sense of, and don't know a lot about a particular one of these individuals, but do we have the ability to put forth names more than what's necessary to fill the number of available seats?
Under,
Go ahead.
under the 103, I think it is, of the, well, either way, under the utility board ordinance, it says council brings forth the appointments. These motions, if they're voted on successfully to be tabled, council could submit other individuals' names at the next council meeting for their consideration for these positions as well. In addition to those. And I went back and reviewed it, and to address Ms. Rhodes' point about internal inconsistency, it seems like each of the boards that we have always has some little nuance to it as far as appointing or approving somebody. Most of our boards allow for the mayor to appoint, most of the positions allow for the mayor to appoint with council approval. We have a few that allow the mayor to appoint and approve on his own, and then we have one like this one that council actually puts forth, can put forth the names of people to be considered for placement on the utility board. And at the time, that's what council wanted to do as far as when this ordinance was drafted and approved.
So by me making this recommendation to table, and it being tabled, then that opens the availability that if council wants to bring forward names, then they'll be able to.
That's correct. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, at the next meeting. If they're properly noticed and so forth, yes.
I'd like to add that, since there is a degree of urgency here, that, if the mayor can make sure these individuals know how important it is to be at the next meeting, so we can act upon it.
Absolutely. And
Not
both of them were,
prolonging this issue.
and both of them were kept away because of the weather. One's coming from South Carolina and the other one was coming from Georgia, from the various holidays. And the weather kept them up. Any other discussion? All those in favor of tabling the two resolutions for 7 and 8, signify by raising your right hand. It passes unanimously. So item number 9 is
now rendered moot. because Mr. Leach has been named as the liaison to Public Works, which means that he's now the chair of the utility board. He can't hold two positions at once. I would suggest to council that it submit another name for the council representative for consideration on the next agenda.
So we don't need to table it because.
No, we don't need to table it. It's been rendered moot by the vote in item number 3.
Well, it looks like you're just in time.
That's it.
Here I am.
Well, here you are, sir. So, item number 10, before I move on to item number 10, if the council would like, I do not necessarily have to be that council representative, on the utility board. I have faith in Mr. Leach's ability to chair and operate the utility board, and he has a long-standing relationship in working with Mr. Metz, which I believe will be very useful. And this is about the betterment of Vienna and what's in the best interest of Vienna. So however we want to discuss that or bring that forward, I don't know how we do that, but
if you have names, typically what you do is if you have names or resolutions or ordinances that you want, the easiest thing to do is just to email them to me. You're not allowed to have discussions with a quorum amongst each other. I'll draft whatever you need. I'll send it to you. You can look at it, tell me if you want to make any changes to it, and then I will pass it along to, as I've done in the past. I've done it different ways at the request of different people. But as of now, I'm just passing it along to the mayor and the recorder, and typically the person who has requested the resolution or ordinance to be drafted. If council wants me to do it differently, I can send whatever legislation you want, drafts of it out ahead of time. I know sometimes that can be cumbersome as changes are made and suggested to me, which means that I send them out, again, I can send them out multiple times, but whatever you want, tell me what you want, I'll write a resolution, get it to the mayor and the recorder and whomever proposed it, and we can go from there.
all right, and I will get together, now that Mr. Leach is the council liaison and chairman of the utility board, I will get together with him and make those discussions. Mr. Leach, does that sound good?
Sounds great, thanks, Mayor.
Awesome. All right, moving on to item number 10. This is a resolution appointing Bobby Marshall as the business representative to the Vienna Planning Commission. Mr. Skogstad, would you like to read the resolution?
This is a resolution appointing Bobby Marshall as the business representative to the Vienna Planning Commission. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna by Municipal Code 13303 that Bobby Marshall, a resident of the City of Vienna for at least 1 year, who possesses the necessary knowledge and experience in matters relating to the development of the city, is hereby appointed to the Vienna Planning Commission for a full 3-year term.
Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Open for discussion. I would like to say that, if I may, I contacted Mr. Marshall and asked him to serve in this capacity. One, because he is a longtime resident of the city of Vienna. He is a business owner in the city of Vienna, contributes greatly to the city of Vienna. And if you did not know, his father, Bob Marshall Sr., or did he go by Robert? Bob, was a long-serving member of this council and contributor of our community as well. I have all confidence in Mr. Marshall, and I know that he has the very best interest at heart when it comes to Vienna, and I put forth his name very confidently and would ask that council support that. Any other discussion?
Currently, there's not any vacancies on the planning commission.
This would start at the beginning of the next appointment. Mr. Middleton's term comes to an end, and he would be replacing him.
Can we do this ahead of time for an opening that's not going to be, because I think his term is up at the end of February.
I think you could do it effective at the end of his term, but no, he can't go on the board until there's a spot on the board there. But if his term is not up until, you would need to amend the resolution to say, that the full 3-year term is effective as of the date of the end of Mr. Middleton's term.
But we'd have to know what they do.
Yeah, I don't know what the date is.
It's February 27th, I believe, the end of February. He'll have it. It's at the end of February.
That's how I find it.
I know that much.
All right. All right. Mr. Middleton's term expires, February 2025, so February 1st, 2025.
Is that when it is?
Well, it expires, my recollection of the ordinance is correct, which I'd like to double check. Should be the first week or the first day of the month. Wait a second, I'll double check.
I'm not sure this chamber has ever been this quiet. I know it's very quiet.
It doesn't say, it doesn't say the first, that's another board that I recall that it says the first of the month. Right now, unless there is, I don't think you can accept this resolution until you have that clarification of when his term actually ends. The list that I have
I know
says
it's
February 2025.
Yeah, I know it's at the end of February. Can we amend this to a March 1st start date?
I don't see where that's an issue.
I know his term is at the end of February.
So I would make a motion that we would amend this resolution,
That his term begins March.
that his term would start March 1st, 2025.
Who seconded it?
A second?
Second. You made the motion.
I made the motion, okay.
That's fine.
All those in favor of amending the current resolution to include a term start date of March 1st, 2025, signify by raising your right hand. The amendment passes.
Now, let's move vote on the actual resolution as amended.
Do I have a motion on the floor to accept the resolution as amended?
Second.
All those, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I just wanna say I appreciate the willingness to serve. It's awesome whenever people step up for roles like this, cause it's not exactly a paid position or anything, so always appreciate people willing to volunteer for these kind of things for the city.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Marshall, you will be paid the exact same amount that Mr. Smith is being paid for to serve on tree and beautification.
That's fair enough. Sounds good.
Is there any other discussion?
I would just like to hear something from Mr. Marshall about, why you would like to serve on the planning commission and what your interests are and maybe your experience or qualifications.
Well, like Chad said, the mayor, I've been, been in Vienna my whole life. and, self-employed for 24 years now, so, that and my dad was really big into this, he was on city council for ages, and he was on the planning commission from 85 to 09, and he chaired it the last 15 years, I believe, 12 or 15 years, he was telling me. But, I like to do things for my city, I really do, I just always have. With at least one of my businesses, we've done a lot of the lettering and the graphics for the police cars and fire department and things like that, and I've just always enjoyed doing things for the place I grew up, basically, so yeah, I think it would be a good thing. So, I don't really know what else I can tell you, other than, I'm gonna be pretty green at it, but I can assure you that I will, step up and do as good a job as possible. Plus, I'm sure I'll get a few recommendations from the senior marshal, I'm sure. I'm sure he'll have quite a few things to say and contribute, but no, I think it'll be a good thing, so.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of accepting the amended amended resolution, signify by raising your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That brings us to standing boards and committee reports. I don't believe anybody would really have any of those right now, correct? Yes?
Jim might have.
Mr. Leach, do you have anything?
Any,
Do you have any
Any
standing board?
standing
Whatever.
board or committee?
no.
Okay. Kelly, then we will move on to council comments. Anyone have council comments?
I was just,
Oh,
are you pointing to me or?
let's move to Henry
Yes,
first.
let's
Then-
do.
then-
You can go first.
Right, I wish you,
I insist.
no.
Okay.
Oh, where's he going?
Podium.
Oh, the podium.
Got used to it.
Yeah, it's 12 years. I mean, it's hard to give up.
Look, we know swim meets are coming up and aquatic centers are important.
No, that's not what's on this one. This one is internally with the city, things that have been coming up over the years.
Okay.
One of the things that, these are comments and concerns and, I picked up over the years, but one of the things with the newspapers, when a newspaper comes in, I hope that, they come in and, they ask for any clarity that they need to, but let what is written in the Parkersburg News and Sentinel be what the reporter wants to write. I know in the past, it's been screened, and it shouldn't be the case. It's freedom of the press. They have their opinion. They have their view of what happened and transpired at the meeting. That's what should be published in a paper. The other thing is any type of things that come up for vote. I know that in the past, we put it in your Dropbox, you're gonna vote on it today. Let's be courteous. Let people have the information in the Dropbox 2 days in advance if possible, so that way they can go be thorough and go through it. I know Councilman Tammy, she's pretty good at finding a bunch of disconnects and issues. So, I mean, it's common courtesy. If we're dropping things in at the last minute, we're not doing our jobs properly. We are going to be working on the budget for 2025, 2026. That's going to be starting here shortly. What would be good to have is what are the city's goals and objectives? Not only to define them, but to report out on them on a monthly basis. This is what's critical to the city. This is what we're measuring ourselves against. Council, mayor, and the employees. One of the things that we do as a company, we have a dashboard. You look at your car all the time, you see all the gauges. You can do the same type of concept, you update it. We also have it by function. So in our case, we can do it by department, but at least we can know what is happening from our goals and objectives for the city of Vienna. In the event, another item, that council would bring someone's name up from the crowd, that person shouldn't have to wait 2 weeks to rebut. We should give them the courtesy, if we say something negative or derogatory about that person, that person should be able to say something back, not wait 2 weeks for something to come back to say something. Walking around the city of Vienna during the election, there's a lot of trees that are hanging over the streets. I believe there's a canopy rule, and for the fire department, fire trucks to get through. I know that a lot of times it's 16 to 20 feet, and the owner of the property needs to cut the trees back. So I don't know what the city's planning on doing about it, but we really need to start addressing that stuff. I mean, fire trucks got to have an unobstructed, access down the street. They're up in Greenmont, they're on a bunch of streets on the other sides. Those need to be cut up, so that way you have the canopy. We have ordinances in place that aren't even being enforced. A good one's golf carts. Anybody that's a young kid, they're supposed to wear a helmet, seatbelts. It's not the case. So if that's the case, why do we have ordinance in place? And there's other ordinances out there as well. So again, ordinances are there for a reason. If we're not going to enforce them, that's not happening. There are citizens within Vienna that are permanently disabled and in a wheelchair. They're wheelchair bound. We as a city need to understand who they are, and when it's snow time and the plows go through, that somehow they slow down and somehow don't push stuff out, because the individual's already strapped and being able to get out with their vehicle. We ought to be able to do something. I mean, I was driving up and down Grand Central, and there's a guy that likes cutting across Grand Central, not at the intersection, but I swear he's on a death mission. Evenings, nighttime, no flag, no lights. So we really need to take those type of individuals into account during inclement weather like this, because they're already tough for them to get around. This just makes it worse. We got a lot of stuff going on talking about Spencer's Landing. I'd like to see the new assessor come up and talk about positive and negative impacts on property taxes. I'd also like to see the realtors department or group come in and talk about housing. What do people look at? Are these positives or negatives? I know when you talk to people, it's always a great thing to have, but not in my backyard. So there's things you got to look at. Property taxes up or down, as well as, resale value or the attractiveness of being able to sell property after the fact. With goals and objectives, you want to link merit increases. You hit your goals, you get an increase. You don't hit your goals, it's not an increase. There's times where our company, we've set out our goals and objectives. You have to hit a certain, level. You don't hit it, you don't get an increase. You start understanding the importance of what needs to happen. When I come to pick up my laptop or my iPad the other day, I asked HR for a copy of the appendix for the mandatory training programs for the city. Why do I ask? Well, there needs to be a formal way of doing it. I know our attorney sent us an email and say, hey, at your leisure, read this. At the beginning of January, with the company I work with, here's a list of all the training programs you're going to have broken down by month. Some of the everything's online, some are classroom. The online stuff, you actually take a quiz at the end. You have to pass a certain percentage. If not, you have to retake it. Some of them you have to acknowledge that you've read the policy and you sign it. You do that every year. In the process of doing it, that goes in the HR folder. it's there. So any event that there's an issue that comes up down the road, you have a piece of documentation that you as an individual, you read it, you understand it, you defied it, you got, cause to be terminated or reprimanded for whichever is the policy. This past election was highly stressful. There was a lot of bad blood, I say, thrown in mud left and right to everybody. But even when we're going to vote or during the process, voting is everyone's independent right to vote the way they want to vote. People should not be pressuring individuals to vote a certain way. That's not right, that's wrong, and if that would ever happen, I personally wish that person would approach me, because I'd be headed to our attorney. That's wrong. That needs to stop, and it needs to be permanently stopped. It hasn't happened here yet, because it's not about if, it's about when. What can we as a city do to prevent squatters from ever coming in? People have homes, summer homes or whatever, winter homes, they head south. What can we as a city do to address potential squatting issues? I know a lot of cities try addressing it after the fact instead of up front. That's something that has been tossed out up there as well. Same with panhandling. Every now and then you see someone at the entrance of Walmart. Everybody knows the panhandling that happens at Parkersburg by the bridge. There's actually 3 of them down there last week doing it, but with the cold weather they disappeared this past few days. But again, I haven't seen it happen in Vienna with the exception of in front there in Walmart. Jackson Park, when my wife was taking the grandkids to school up through the region early in the morning, why would people be coming out of the woods with suitcases? We really need to start addressing that too. Do we have an issue as Vienna? So that's something that we as City Council need to take a look at. And then the last piece of the puzzle that I have is I went through and had to renew my driver's license. So it's kind of cool. I don't know if this thing's on. Yeah, it's on. So I've blocked out something. I know people have been saying things, but I'm not afraid to show anything. Here is a copy. Yeah. How does this work?
To your left.
Turn it on. Oh.
There's my driver's license. Residence, 1307 Green Mountain Hills Drive. Here's my new one, different style, but same thing. So I live where I say I live. That's all I have. Thank you.
I'd just like to add one thing. You're talking about things come up for a vote.
Yes, sir.
Drop box early. I think I'm required to have those out no later than Monday night, 3 days, and they work this 11 in this time period. So I'm not sure why you didn't get that when.
No, I got yours.
I think he's just
I'm
saying.
referencing, I remember last term where someone said, hey, we just put this in your Dropbox, we're gonna vote on it. That was my point. I didn't say.
I don't think he's referencing anything that you did. I think he's just saying future reference.
I just wanted to ask, and this may not be the appropriate place to do it, and I think it would be an administrative function of the city, but I'd like to see the city implement an inclement weather policy. I know you've had a lot of experience with snowstorms and, disasters and things like that. I really think that the city needs that. We have no policy at all in the city for how to handle snow emergencies or if there was a flood emergency or anything else. And I don't know truthfully, any other business of this size that does not have something like that in place. So I would just like to give that to you to think about, if you would, please.
So
Who's gonna say something in response?
Yeah, in response to Councilperson Tammy, when there's an emergency, that brings up a couple good things. Number one is, how does Vienna respond when there's an issue on the other side of the tracks and the train's blocking the road to get into the lower part? That's number one. Number two is, several years ago, we had the issue with the warehouse fire in Parkersburg, storing chemicals. Whatever came out of that afterwards, because we have the warehouse on Rosemont, which I know it's county, the other one by Greenmont's county. But what has the county done? I mean, should we ask Blair and those guys to come in and explain to us what is going to be put in place, or what was put in place for anything to happen like that in the future? Because the conditions down there was part of the problem. So that ties in with you.
And that was one of the questions I asked when, having been in office for like 20 seconds and we got hit with a snowstorm, I started to reach out to both on the county level and on the state level to see what our response was and how we handled, how we went about, or when we decided to close the city building or city operations, and when we decided to open those back up. And that was actually something that I spoke with Craig Metz, our Public Works Director, on if we had emergency routes and plans and various things in place. I know we have a city emergency plan that I've looked at, and it addresses really disaster type planning, and it mirrors a lot of what the county does. So yes, I believe we should have a standing policy in place that, I also discussed with human resources on how we identify who are considered essential employees and non-essential employees, so that we can report how we get that information out, so that individuals know, do I show up? Do I not show up? Am I needed, or am I one of those that are not? Through this process, I also discovered we as a city do not have, and we're taking steps to correct, and we addressed during the department head meeting today, we do not have a central process in place that I can send out an alert to every employee, so that every employee would get an alert message or even be broken down by department. So that's kind of a multi-part response. One, we have to know exactly what we're doing when these things hit. So yes, we started a discussion this week. The snowstorm brought that on. Two, we're working on how we identify, and I've asked department heads to be able to identify who they consider essential and non-essential when it comes to workflow in those situations. And three, how we get that information out to all of our employees, other than just text message, trying to text everybody or send out, city emails in a sense to get that. So yes, I believe that is an appropriate action that we need to take, and the snowstorm has, nudged us very quickly to address that, because those were questions I was asking over the last few days. I do want to say, when we talk about snow response or response to the storm, our public works and our parks departments did an absolutely amazing job. I know we always have some issues, in areas, but overall, they are to be commended for all of the work that they did. Mr. Metz gave me a report today on the amount of miles that were driven, and there were 1,100, almost 1,200 miles driven by our city crews in response to the snow. So you think about that. We've got 60 plus miles of road within the city, so you multiply that, and that will tell you how much they had went out doing, working, and plowing. It was, I will share this, a little bit with you. I was on the phone. I had gotten a call from somebody, and they simply stated, I haven't seen a snowplow. Oh, never mind. It just went by my house. So to Steve Black and to Craig Metz and all of the
individuals that worked on, the snow removal. I appreciate it, the city appreciates it, kudos to them. Any other comments?
There's a couple things on what you're talking about. On our website, and this happened during COVID and so on, we do have an emergency response plan, and there's also a snow removal map on our website that shows the routes that our city takes when they're doing, and tips and so on. So that, and I'm looking at it, so, the contact information needs updated now. Administration's changed, and part of city officials are on there. But, so there is information on the website. Like I said, I know that this was what last looked at during COVID. The Chief Scholl and Pfeiffer and city officials met at that time, but there's probably some updates that we've done.
Any other council comments?
Yeah, just a quick reminder, next Wednesday at 6 p.m., the steering committee for the Spencer's Landing, Johns Manville, it's with the Thrasher Group. We'll be meeting down at the utility board. It's open, everybody can attend. 6 p.m. utility board, January 15th. And also I wanted to echo what Mayor said. I thought the road crews, the workers, I mean, they were out all hours in the morning, clearing the roads. I agree they did an excellent job and want to commend those guys and gals and appreciate all the work that they did. And last thing, and I hope I don't get in trouble for personal gain.
Oh no, you're looking at him, so it's not me.
Today's my wife's 29th birthday, so I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday.
Again?
Rachel.
Again? All right, and I will make the final comment. For those of you that came this evening, look at this council. I truly believe that everybody that's sitting on this council has the best interest at heart when it comes to the city of Vienna as a whole. We're not always going to agree on things, we're going to disagree, and it's gonna happen. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that everybody sitting in front of you has the absolute best interest of the city of Vienna in their heart. And we want to do the absolute best. We are servants of the city of Vienna. We are in the business of customer service, providing that to the residents and businesses of Vienna. And I will strive to do the very best to be able to do that. And I know that I can openly say for every council member and our recorder, who, by the way, has been doing a spectacular job with a couple of things that we may need to correct, but we're good. I just look forward to working with you guys on over the next 4 years, and it's going to be a good time. That's all I've got. Meeting adjourned.